What up world, it's BK here, and in this video I'm going to walk you through what PokéCircuit is and our plans to play it or whatever. We're currently inside Didi, our 2007 Toyota Yaris, outside of a Love's in Fernley, and my things are falling apart because it's ridiculously hot in here. This video might be kind of boring because there's not going to be a lot of... Oh wow, yeah, it completely melted. Okay, well, hopefully that holds up for this time. It's basically just going to be a bunch of text, but I wanted to make this video because I feel like it's a good opportunity because I wanted to explain what PokéCircuit was for those who were interested. So if you don't know, around here one of the things that we do is develop reality games. Reality games are a concept where you use real world stuff to make games out of. We recently went on a road trip and we played a game called Road Trip Quest. You can check out the playlist here. This is a reality game that involves this game is a race. So it involves two or more players, and you are trying to you're trying to get through a finish line. So I've broken the rules down into a way that is a framework that will allow people like you to create your own version of this or add on or use what we have. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through what I have here, and then I'll send you on your way. So I'm not going to go ahead and just read the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of explain it and scroll through the text, basically. So we have PokéCircuit is a reality game that requires a version of Pokemon to race. So all players should use the same version of Pokemon, and it should also be a Pokemon game that derives from the Red, Blue, and Green series. So nothing like Arceus or, Ranger or any of the other ones. It's like with the mainline Pokemon games where you're collecting badges and you're going through to do the thing, at least for what we have here. So in PokéCircuit there are cups. So a cup is like the big picture rule set, and you can create your own cups by implementing rules from this. So I've only created one cup, and it's the basis of the game. So I'll read this blurb just so we can get through it. A cup defines a finish line, rules, and fate table. So what that means is, like I said, this is a race. So in order to complete the race, you have to complete the finish line. For our purposes, we're calling the first cup, or this cup that we're going to be playing. Let me back it up just a little bit. My friend Koopa and I are going to be racing each other in this game to play test it and sort of kind of show off exactly what this is. So a cup implements a finish line, a rule set, and a fate table. The basic cup implements the finish line is the first player to enter the Hall of Fame. So basically, once you've completed the Elite Four and you're beat the champion, you go to the Hall of Fame. That's the end of the race. That's the finish line. So the rules that we have implemented for the basic cup are themed nickname, and I'll go through what all of those are in a little while. Rivals, fated reset, fated capture, reaper, progression, and RNJ. Random number Jesus. And the fate table is basically a the fate table is a table that you roll against. So if you think about a die as like a D6 as a 6-sided table, or a D10 as a 10-sided table, each side of that die or randomizer has a rule associated with it. So we're calling the first table basic, right? So to reiterate, a cup implements a finish line, a rule set, and a fate table. So I'm going to walk you through what each of the rules are for the basic cup. So themed nickname. So players must nickname their Pokemon, and the Pokemon have to have some sort of unifying nickname. So for example, we will decide that before the race starts in the very first episode. And man, I'm so upset that this is falling apart. I really need this to work. Anyways, that's aside. So for example, let's say food, and let's say my themed nicknames are food. So I have to name all of my Pokemon that I catch after some food or has some relationship towards food. So pizza, Hot Pocket, pasta, curry, sushi, stuff like that. So rivals. So the rival rule is that like me and the race we're going to do is only going to involve me and one other player, but let's imagine you did a race with 4 players. So each player picks one of the other players and they make them their rival. So for example, me and Koopa are going to be each other's rivals, and whenever you encounter the rival and battle them in the game, after that battle is completed, you must immediately battle the other player that is your rival in the game. So that has to be through, like, we're playing Let's Go Eevee and we're gonna do it through network play, so we'll have to battle each other online. But let's say you were using the old school ones and you are all in the same room, you could like hook up and battle each other, but you have to battle them, and then the winner receives a rival token. So rival tokens can act as any tokens, and I'll explain tokens in a second. So fated rest is the next rule. So when you can only, when you enter a Pokemon Center and you use a Pokemon Center, you have to roll the fate die. So the fate die is, so a fate table, let's just jump to this real quick so we can explain the fate die. Actually, no, I'll explain the fate die a little later on. But every time you enter a Pokemon, every time you use a Pokemon Center, you have to roll the fate die. Same thing with capturing. So anytime you capture a Pokemon, you have to roll the fate die. And again, we'll explain fate die in a second. So Reaper, when your Pokemon faints, you have to release it. Similar to like a Nuzlocke. And revives are not usable when this rule is active. So that means unless otherwise specified, you can never revive your Pokemon. The only time that Reaper is not in play is when you're in a battle with another human player. So when me and Koopa battle each other, whoever walks out of that battle, they don't have to release their Pokemon. So, but that's the only time. Anytime you fight an AI opponent and your Pokemon dies, that includes Pokemon in the wild, boss battle, or anything like that, you'll have to release your Pokemon. So progression. Every time you beat a gym, you have to roll a d6, and you get any number of implemented tokens. So let's say you roll a 6, then you get 6 tokens that you can assign in any way you like to the active implemented tokens. And again, we'll explain what tokens are in a second. So the last rule is RNJ, random number Jesus. So how that works is anytime you enter a route, you have to roll a d20. And whatever that number is, that's the number of Pokemon you can defeat in that route. So if you walk into Route 1 and you roll a 1, you can only fight and defeat 1 Pokemon. That's how that works. Okay, so we've discussed what the finish line is, and we've discussed what rules are, so let's move on to the fate table. So the fate table implements a few things. The fate table implements tokens, strikes, and a fate die. So tokens are a resource that is given to the players, and you can only perform, if a token is active or implemented, it restricts your actions unless you consume that token. So, for example, the implemented tokens on the base table are going to be PokéCenter, Capture, and Phoenix Down. So what this means is PokéCenter, if we look here. Oh, did I not write the tokens down? Oh yeah, okay. So restricts the use of PokéCenters. So basically, you get 9 Pokemon Center tokens at the beginning of the game, and every time you go to a Pokemon Center and you want to heal your Pokemon, you have to use one of those tokens. And the same goes for Capturing and Phoenix Down. And remember, we have progression on the basic table, on the basic cup. So if you beat a gym, you're going to get to roll a d6 and then get tokens. Oh, and same thing with the rival. So the winner receives, the winner will roll a d6. Okay, so I think you kind of understand what tokens are. So we have the implemented tokens are going to be PokéCenters. You get 9 at the beginning. Capture tokens, you get 6 at the beginning, and then Phoenix Downs, you get 3. So Phoenix Downs means if you must release a Pokemon, you may exchange your Phoenix Down token to not have to do that, and then you are allowed to use a revive on that Pokemon. This can work inside and outside of battle. So if you lose a Pokemon in battle and you want to use a Phoenix Down on it and you have a revive, you can do that. But that's the only time you would be able to use a revive in our current setup. So then the next thing is strikes. So strikes are similar, except they force you to do an action after you receive 3 of them. So the strikes that we have active are going to be release, freeze, push up, and then reset. So if you receive 3 strikes, you have to release one of your Pokemon. If you receive 3 freeze strikes, you have to put the controller down for 1 minute, and you can't play the game at all until the time limit is up. If you receive push-up strikes, you have to do 5 push-ups, and then the reset, you have to reset your console. The last thing a fate table implements is a fate die. So we talked about that before. You can think about the fate die as any number of, so in this case we're using a 10-sided randomizer, so a D10, but it could be any amount. And then each face of that implements a specific rule. So when you're told to roll the fate die, you roll the fate die, and then you do the rule. So in this instance, we have 10 faces. The rules are going to be for 1, KYS and crit. So KYS means that you gain 1 implemented strike of your choice, and then crit means you get to re-roll the die. So you roll a bunch of 1s, that could be pretty bad for you. And then catch 'em. Catch 'em means you gain a capture token. Smell you later. Choose a player to gain a release strike. Res, gain 1 Phoenix Down token. Ice Beam, choose a player to gain a freeze strike. Strength, choose a player to gain a push-up strike. Cure, gain 1 Pokemon Center token. Helping Hand, choose a player other than yourself to gain a capture token. Divination, choose a player other than yourself to roll the fate die. And then Free Ride, which gains a token of your choice, and crit, so reroll. That is the outline of PokéCircuit. And if you wanted to come in here and make your own rules, branch, I'll leave the GitHub link out there. You can create your own branch, add your own rules, create your own cups, do whatever you want. But basically, that's just the framework. So you have a finish line, rule set, and a fate table. And then again, the fate table implements strikes, strikes, tokens, and a fate die. I hope that makes sense. Koopa and I are planning on doing a dry run of this tomorrow. So we will try to live stream it. I'm not exactly sure if that's going to happen, but we plan on doing a playthrough of this over the course of the next 3 to 6 months. The goal is to have a 1-hour show with 55 minutes of gameplay, and then 5 minutes of pre-ramble, and then a 5-minute outro. So that will be a live show that him and I work with. Again, I'm currently living out of my car, and so I may or may not have the capabilities of Wi-Fi in order to do that. But if we do, we're going to make it happen. And yeah, I appreciate you hanging out with me, and stay tuned for the next... Keep it locked here on After Earth Arcade for the next reality game. Peace.